Most Russian troops stationed in Ukraine no longer want to fight. According to a new poll, 72% of them now want to end the fighting. The Kremlin is certainly aware of these sentiments but continues to ignore the warning signs. However, the longer the war drags on, the faster not only morale but also the army's actual combat capability is destroyed. The study conducted by independent sociologists and the publication Verstka covered more than 100 Russian military personnel from various units. The results are unambiguous. 72% of those surveyed want the war to end. Only 22% said they were ready to continue it for the sake of victory, and only 2% for the sake of revenge for their fallen comrades. The desire for peace is especially expressed among those who have been at the front for less than 2 years, who are the majority, and 77% of them are in favor of a ceasefire. Even among the veterans who have spent more than 2 years at war, 57% said they want peace. One of the key indicators is that 51% of the military are ready to support Putin's decision to withdraw troops, even without achieving the formal goals of the SVO. This means that the idea of victory at any cost has lost support among a significant part of the army. Among conscripts, 67% support the withdrawal. Among mobilized and volunteers, about 55%. The level of support for the withdrawal among career officers is minimal, 18%, which indicates a growing gap between the leadership and the personnel. The military also has different understandings of why the war began. Only 21% name the official formulations demilitarization and denazification. The rest believe that it is about geopolitics, the fight against NATO, an attempt to change the government in Kiev, or simply a piece of territory that can be shown on the map. Many openly accuse the leadership of making a mistake. More than half believe that the war could have been avoided, and some directly call the decision to invade Putin's personal initiative. A quote from one of the military sounds extremely frank. This is specifically Volodya. If there had been a different president, it is not a fact that it would have started. Almost everyone supports peace talks in one form or another. Only 15% are against. However, more than half of the military are confident that the war will last at least another year. Only a third of those surveyed believe in a quick end to the victory. Declining motivation, lack of trust in the goals of the war, fatigue from the front, and mistrust of the prospects, all this is forming a dangerous trend within the Russian army. Against this background, the risk of refusals, desertion, and a decline in operational effectiveness increases every day. The Kremlin is likely well aware of these sentiments, but the choice between ending the war honestly and forcibly keeping the army on the battlefield is becoming less and less abstract and more acute, because with each passing day, Russia's war is becoming a war without an army willing to believe in it.
Russian troops are advancing towards border of Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, and Donetsk regions, Ukrainian media reported on Tuesday, citing Vladislav Voloshin, spokesperson for the Southern Defense Forces. Voloshin stated that Russian army units engaged in 23 combat clashes over the past day in Novopavlivka sector where fierce fighting is ongoing. The adversary is literally pushing toward the border of the Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, and Donetsk regions. Additionally, the situation remains quite tense in the Kharkiv sector, near areas such as Mali Sherbaki, Lobkov, and Stepov, Voloshin said. He added that Russians are attempting to break through the front line there and secure a foothold, which is not far from Zaporizhia. From there, they would be able to exert fire control over our supply routes from Zaporizhia to eastern Zaporizhia region and shell the city and its suburbs, Voloshin explained. In addition, the situation has worsened near Kherson region, where Russian troops have sought to capture islands on the Dnipro River. Despite Ukrainian troops destroying some of Russian watercraft in the area, some Russian troops managed to land on the islands. Sometimes the enemy leaves 1 or 2 soldiers on these islands. They end up playing Robinson Crusoe there, as they can't be evacuated. Their command drops them ammunition, water, and food using drones. They remain there for several days, and in some cases, they even surrender to our forces. Russian propaganda uses these incidents to claim control over the island zone. But we've seen more of these attempts in the past few days, the military official said. He also expressed concerns over Russian army's use of guided bombs on residential areas in Kherson. He explained that Russians use double strikes on Kherson, first with guided aerial bombs, followed by artillery and drone attacks. Lieutenant General Uruslav Moscowik, who was killed in a car explosion in Balashikha, near Moscow, on April 25, was responsible for monitoring the situation in the war in Ukraine. This fact was also reflected in the obituary published in the newspaper, Krasnaya Zvezda, the organ of the Russian Ministry of Defense. Since the beginning of the war, Moscowik has led the duty staff of the Combat Management Group of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces and coordinated monitoring of the situation in the zone of combat operations. He was also involved in the preparation of analytical materials for President Vladimir Putin and the Minister of Defense. Among those who signed the obituary are the new Minister of Defense Andrei Belousov and Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov. Ukrainian intelligence services have eliminated Uruslav Moscowik, who served as Deputy Chief of the Russian General Staff's main operational directorate. Secretary of the National Security Committee Roman Kostenko confirmed in an interview. "What can I say? I'm pleased. This is the right work by our intelligence services," Kostenko said. "I believe we must understand that even if we reach a ceasefire soon, the work of intelligence services will only be beginning." He also stated that such operations target all individuals involved in war crimes against Ukraine, those who fired at civilians, launched missiles, analyzed targets, made decisions, or gave orders. This will become the primary mission of our intelligence services and the SBU, to ensure these people are punished, no matter where they are. They should be afraid even to leave their homes, let alone leave the territory of the Russian Federation, Kostenko added. According to the FSB, the explosion of Russian general was carried out by 42-year-old Ignat Kuzin. He reportedly has a residence permit in Ukraine. He allegedly bought a car in advance and planted a homemade explosive device in it. The components of the device were obtained from secret warehouses set up by Ukrainian special services around Moscow. On April 27, the Moscow Main Court arrested Kuzin on charges of a terrorist act. The next day, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski, without mentioning Moscowik by name, praised Ukrainian intelligence for the killing of high-ranking representatives of the Russian armed forces. "Justice will definitely prevail," he declared.